Thank you so much for coming back. Buenas tardes. I've been your host this morning, and it has been such a fun experience and such a fun moment to be here with all of you. We were coloring this morning with a Girls Museum Day. We have danced our little hearts out with Natalia from La Libreria, and we did this recorrido of Grand Park with Amber. So thank you so much, and thank you for tuning in to Grand Park's Our LA Voices 2020. Today, we're here to share with you a bunch of, the different voices that are come from Los Angeles and the different expressions of our community together with conversations and themes about our histories through the perspective from our communities and artists. Remember that we are live on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, so make sure to join us. Remember, you can go to our Instagram at Grand Park _ LA. También tag anything that you're sharing with us. Our hashtag is Grand Park or LA Voices. And listen, I think there's something so beautiful about the conversations that we've been having and connecting to the things, that are meaningful to us right now during this moment. And I think for me, one of the biggest things has been that I've been missing hugs. And though I can't give you a hug, there is a way that for me to still give you a hug. So this little poem that I'm going to share with you is called Abrázame from my upcoming chapbook called Semilla. Y dice algo así. Hands are a manifestation. Into me signifies how close I want you to my soul. Abrázame. There's this little moment that happens when the body relaxes and eases into its own embrace. Abrázame. I never know how to say most of what I feel, so I hold you a little longer. I dig a little deeper. Abrázame. I sneak my hand in the liminal space of your nips and your arm, breath from behind, arm interlaced with your chest. Abrázame. Wrapped in you, my core becomes truncated. My feet root into their own core. My hair skin flies off to meet the sky. Abrázame. Abrázame muy fuerte. I think of times in media, when it says, oh, a singer is doing sighs in Spanish, there is definitely a way for us to acknowledge and send those closed captionings as we're texting people. So the next time you text them one, let them know in closed captioning, I am hugging you. Right now, the thing that is bringing us so close together is our power to love, our power to be. And that love is more than just romantic, right? There's a love for place, a love for Los Angeles. And our next poet, Yesika Salgado, captures that love for herself, her skin, and her city. It's my honor to say goodbye as your host during this segment, and Yesika Salgado, an LA-based Salvadoreña. Yes, and she writes about her family, culture, city, and her body. It is such an honor for me to be able to bring on this next poet, someone who I admire truly, whose poetry speaks to me as a Salvadoreño myself. And with that being said, I'm going to go prepare myself some pupusas and have some lunch, una horchatita on the side, or una charamusca. So my guanacos and salvadoreños, much love. My name is Jose Richard Aviles. You can follow me on Instagram at Soy Nalgona. Yes, Soy Nalgona y con recibo. No, no es cierto, no se crean. Bueno, ha sido un placer. Buenas tardes. Besos. I can't wait to reconnect with all of you again. Y pronto nos veremos on the other side, and be ready for a big, big hug. My name is Jose Richard Aviles, and it has been my pleasure to.
Hi, everybody. This is oh. Hi, everybody. This is Yesika Salgado, your fat, fly, brown poet, your LA historian, storyteller from Silver Lake Echo Park. It's such an honor to be part of Grand Park, our LA Voices. And I'm so happy that we managed to get to y'all, whether digitally or in your home. We would have been in the park, but with this heat, I think we still got the better of it because we get to be in the shade. Um, I am good. Can you hear me now? Perfect. And I'm a little sorry for the technical difficulties. And I'm back. So my name is Yesika Salgado, and I am a Los Angeles poet. I am a fly, fat, brown girl that's in desperate need of the sun right now. But it is an honor to be part of Grand Parks Art Alley Voices. It's an honor to be a part of this beautiful programming. Yesterday, I kept tuning in throughout the day, and it just felt like we were all at Grand Park together. It felt like we were all celebrating something really beautiful, and I'm so grateful for Sanctuary bringing me in to be a part of their programming. I have such a beautiful relationship with them. I got to host and perform at Selena for Sanctuary this last fall, and it was I think it was the most beautiful moment I've ever had performing within my own city. At the same point that my voice trembles when I remember how beautiful that day was, and it was an honor. I am a poet, a writer. I write mostly, I only write about love. I love about the abundance of love and the absence of love and the longing for love and the way that love ultimately connects us all. I write about my family. I write about my body. I write about our beautiful city. I write about boys. Unfortunately, I write no, boys are beautiful, and that's why I write so much about them. They're terrible, but they're beautiful. And then I just write about. I mean, what isn't there to write about? What isn't a love poem waiting to be discovered? My first corazón is a love story. Ultimately, like yes, it tells the story of a relationship, but it's a love story of it's the love story of me and love, of me and my own heart. And I'm going to be reading you some poems from there today, and also I will be sharing with you kind of a little bit of my process. A little bit of my process, and sorry if I looked down at my phone. That's how our producers are giving me notes. So yes, so my first book is called Corazon. It was published by Not a Cult, NOTACULT media, and it's my first of three books. My second book, Tesoro, and my third book that I released this last fall is called Hermosa, and all three of them explore what your home country, your home city, and all of that, how they influence the way that you love and kind of have shaped me to become the woman that I am today. But Corazon, oh, this little book is going to be 3 years old this year. And this little book has a mind of its own. Since its release in 2000, let me see. What are years? What is time, right? Since its release in 2017, I've been told by my publisher that there hasn't been a day where a copy of Corazon hasn't been purchased. So that means that for nearly 3 years, every single day, someone somewhere brings this beautiful baby home. And what else can someone ask from their firstborn? So I'm going to read the introduction to the book, and then I'll read a couple of poems and just talk about my process from the book with the book. And then later on, I'm going to be joined by my girls from Locatora Radio, but we'll talk about that later. When I first began piecing this book together, I did not know if it would make sense. If I could turn my hunger for love, my poor choice in lovers, my impulsive destruction, my mouthful of tears into something tangible. I asked the poems what they wanted of me, and I could hardly hear their whispers. Then life happened. My heart was broken again. A relationship failed again. I had to dig myself out of the pain again. I asked myself, how many times have I done this? And I realized I had lost count. I am a woman who insists on loving love, who always finds a way back to herself, back to being whole. This book is for anyone who is all heart and not much else. If you fall easy, if you lose hard, if you are stubborn with your love, this is a celebration of the turns that love takes. The good, the confusing, the bad, the the beauty of knowing we can always do it again. I hope you see yourself in my story. I hope you join me in celebrating our messy yet resilient hearts. So that is my introduction to Corazon. And one of my favorite poems. So I'm going to be talking about using love as a writing tool as you write, right? And for me, I think that everything, whether you're writing a political commentary piece, poem, whether you're writing a poem about something traumatic that happened in your life, if you're writing an angry poem for your ex, it is still a love poem. It is either a poem where you're hurting or you're angry about the love that you lost, or it's a poem because you love something so much you are willing to fight for it, or it's because you just love something and you want to honor it in a piece. Every poem is about love or the absence of love, and therefore it's still about love because it's about wanting love. And so, as I was writing this book and I was telling this larger love story, I needed to have a moment of intimacy because I talk a lot about my relationship with my father. That was a very difficult relationship because we loved each other very much, but there were a lot of factors that made it difficult, and his alcoholism being the biggest one. And so, but I needed folks to understand the tenderness that existed between us. So I wrote this poem called Café con Pan, and we're Salvadoran, right? And I know many other Latinos, Latinx folks. If but in my house, if we dip it in cafe, like you don't eat pan dulce by itself. That's some weird. But for us, you have to dip the pan in your coffee, and that's how you eat it. Especially my father and I, that was our thing. So this is a poem about a story that I was told so much that it became my own memory. Papi would sit on the floor, his café con leche poured into a bowl. He'd call me to him, placing strips of pan dulce on a plate between us. Together, we drowned them into the coffee. From another room, Mommy would say, Ay, deja de darle café a la niña. He'd laugh, kissing the little rose on my legs. Years later, when the alcohol had done its work and he was dying, I'd sit next to his bed watching his shaking hands dunk cookies into coffee. This is what I know of love, the sweet mouthful, a messy thing, dissolving in my hands, on my tongues, feeling everything. And so the second poem, called What I Know, is about when I was writing. I wrote this book, Corazon, at a cafe here in Silver Lake called Cafe Tropical, and it's on Sunset, and it's walking distance from my house, like super close. And I remember sitting in the cafe, but looking out the window and my neighborhood looking completely different and getting angry at the fact that my neighborhood isn't the neighborhood I grew up loving. And so I wrote a list of the things that I know for sure of Silver Lake and Echo Park in Los Angeles. And this is a love poem to my city. Or it's complicated. We'll get to it. What I know. All the bus routes that take you in and out of downtown Los Angeles. Two, the names of every street between Silver Lake and Echo Park. Three, what each store was before the gentrification. Four, the corner we found my father on after a diabetic shock. Five, the alley mommy had us walk through the night Papi hit her. Six, the clinic where I saw my first therapist when I was 12. Seven, the parking lot where a drunk Papi tried to teach me to drive. 8, the Rite Aid I got banned from for shoplifting. 9, the store that doesn't ID for beer. 10, the old zoo. 11, Griffith Park and its secret corners. 12, Glendale and its shopping mall. 13, Santa Monica Beach and my two sisters. 14, Papi's old car parked on our block. 15, my body, a glowing star within it. 16, my first love and his hands around me. 17, the jacaranda tree where I cried him out of me. 18, the dead end where I took my next lover. 19, Parked by the 101. 20, Fairfax and Melrose. 21, Another Lover and His Car. 22, Hand on My Knee Down Sunset. 23, The Apartment in Culver City. 24, The Breakup Ended. 25, In Hollywood. 26, on Broadway. 27, The Hospital in East LA. 28, The Two Fetuses It Kept. 31, 29, sorry, I got carried away. 29, California Hospital. 30, My Father It Kept. 31, The Grief I Left Everywhere. 32, What This City Takes. 33, What This City Gives. 34, What I Cannot Forget. 35, Who I Was Before I Knew What I Know Now. Before these palm trees ever loved me back. And that's my poem to Los Angeles. And I'm going to read now a love poem to ya. So there's a chapter in the book dedicated specifically, it's let me get to it. So there's a chapter that's dedicated to falling in love. And so those are sounds of my neighborhood. Um, and love, falling in love is so delicious. And I think that sometimes we forget to write about when we are in love, because for many of us, we learn to write as a healing tool, as a tool to process feelings. And so we're like, oh, I'm happy, I don't need to sit down. And I think that it's important for us, even if it's brief, sentences or a short poem. It's important to write during our moments of happiness, so that when we forget what that feels like, there's something to go back to. And so here is this poem called Dulzura. Mi corazón, cielito lindo, tesoro mío, mi amor, mi vida, mi alma. How beautiful it is to be loved in Spanish. So much color, so much taste. This is where I learned to love with abandon. When my lover called me his heart, his pretty sky, his treasure, his love, his life, his soul, has anyone ever spoken to you this way? Covered you with kisses, naming you every precious thing they know? Have they ever filled you with so much dulce you thought you would burst? Mi vida, mi alma. Oh, to be loved so much you become someone's soul, sky, treasure, corazón. That poem makes me want to fall in love. Like, so if you are out there wanting to fall in love with me, I'm taking applicant, and I'm kidding. Well, I'm half kidding. We're in a pandemic right now, so hi. um, so for every love, if there is a love story, obviously I'm single, so this love story ended, and so it within the book, I start moving into the the one of those chapters that deals with a lot of pain of love is called the bruising, because throughout the whole book, the mango is referenced a lot and used as a metaphor for my heart or for my love. And so in a fruit, when you drop a fruit to the ground, it'll bruise, right? And so that bruise that forms on the fruit is actually all of the sugar being concentrated in one spot of the fruit. And I thought, well, isn't that what happens for us when we experience heartache? Our heart is bruised, and it's because all of the love is crowding in that one little corner of grief or pain or whatever, and that is what's causing the grief within our chest. And so that is why the chapter is called The Bruising. And so this poem is called With and Without You. You love someone for a long, long time. So long you don't remember not loving them. So long the years accordion into each other, and within the folds all the times you didn't get it right. So you let them go and they come back, or you call them back. You swear it'll be different, but it isn't. You still love them and each failure hurts. You think that maybe you could be friends, but that too is a sharp pain. You don't want them in your life. You don't want to live without them. Another year goes by this way. turning hope into your only bread and water. Maybe you'll figure it out. Maybe someone new will make you both forget. Maybe the world will end and set you free. Molcajete. Once when I was in love, I called my mom and I asked her to give me a recipe for something that I was cooking. And then she goes, ay, así, ese sí es amor. Ese, what did she say? Ese sí es amor peligroso, because I don't cook. So she knew that the minute that I asked her to teach me how to cook something, I was in it. So I wrote this poem kind of to honor that after that relationship ended. Boil the tomatillos. Boil the chiles. Place them in the molcajete with peeled garlic cloves. Take the stone in your right hand. Press it into the green. Feel the tomatoes turn themselves out. The seeds on the chiles crawl out of their skin, the garlic becoming dozens of scattered teeth. Lean into the molcajete as if leaning into a kiss. Turn your hand as you grind the stone against stone again, again, again. My mother would make the salsa verde for my father, serve it to him during dinner as if to say, here, this is what my heart looks like. He would spoon it into his tortilla, a taco full of her, eyes watering between bites. When you loved me, I didn't know if I was the stone or the hand, the tomatillos or the garlic. You were definitely the chile. You were the bite and the fire. You were the tears and tortilla. I saw my heart before you. I sat my heart before you, watched you eat, waited for you to tell me it tasted like home, but you never did. Yeah, cooking for people, and then and then I'm gonna read one more little sad poem, and then we're gonna move into my favorite part of the book, which is called The Return. Um, and so then there is always during a breakup and at the tail end of a breakup, there's always the moment where you get angry, right? And you're like, you know what? Bye. I'm gonna be good. And so I wrote this poem called Los Corvos. And sometimes at the end of the relationship, the love isn't going anywhere. It's not that you stop loving. It's just how that love just transfers back to you. So love is a constant exchange of going back and forth, right? And to think of that as a writing tool to keep moving that love, like if it were, you know how, I don't know if in many of your homes, but for us, my mom always taught us that if someone brings food over to your house, you don't return the plate empty. You have to return it with food. And that way this plate keeps moving back and forth between these two houses because, the plate comes over and my mom, we eat the food, my mom cooks something for the plate, takes it back, then she cooks something else that's delicious, brings it back again. And so I think of that's what love is. It's just like you keep putting something back onto that plate and handing it back home for you to take the plate and cook something for it, give it back to somebody else. So anyway, so here's this poem called Los Corvos. We keep a machete in our home. Mommy uses it to cut the weeds on Saturday afternoons. You'll find her in our garden on her hands and knees swinging away. Mommy's mommy used to grab her own machete back in El Salvador and head down to the river. She'd cut away at tree branches and overgrown bamboo, her tiny frame in the distance, her right arm extended, the blade catching the sunlight. I come from women who fend for themselves. The blade is our friend. And you, well, you are a weed, and I know how to slice you out of me. So today, or any day when your ex texts you, tell them you are a weed, and I know how to slice you out of me. They're gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" You know what you're talking about, and that's all that matters. And talking about bringing back the plate of food, bringing back that plate back to yourself. We move into the last chapter of the book called The Return, and that's why whenever you break up, it's not that the love goes away, it's not that the love dies, it's not that the love expires, it just returns back to you. And so I wrote this poem called Corazon Heals Herself, at reclaiming the love that I thought this person had gone off with. And so sometimes I talk in third person, and it's not because I'm ditching myself. There's two different reasons why people speak in third person sometimes, and many times you're talking yourself through something, which is why I do it. But other times, and I have to make sure that I'm not doing this when that happens, you're distancing yourself from the subject of the poem. um, you're distancing yourself from the subject of the poem, and you have to make sure and ask yourself why you're distancing yourself. Are you not ready to own this? Are you trying to make it seem like it's somebody else's and not your own? And if so, that's something worth examining. And yeah, I think the biggest part of writing and the editing process is asking yourself why you made the choices in your work that you did. And if you can stand by the choices that you made, then you're fine. But if you don't know why you made the choices, then that's worth examining and kind of figuring it out. So, can somebody on the production team tell me how much time I have left? Because I'm really excited to for the for the second portion of this, but I also want to be mindful of time. So, some little magical creature. Okay, I have 5 minutes. Perfect. Thank you so much, Gabby. So thank you so much to the production team behind this. They made this so easy that literally all I had to do was sit myself in front of this camera and talk to y'all. This is so beautiful. I'm so honored to be able to be a part of this. And then also my homegirl Carla later is going to be, I think, giving a cooking tutorial, cooking Salvadoran food. And I love that there's so much Salvadoran program. Okay, bye. I mean, I'm not leaving. I'm reading a poem. And so you loved him for a long, long time. So long you thought you couldn't stop. And he didn't love you back. He didn't ask you to stay. He kept on living without you. You are still alive. You still laugh with your own mouth. You still point at the moon with the same finger. You loved him because you are so good at loving, so good at asking, what can I give you? What do you need? Do you remember the time you thought you were dying and you asked yourself to stay? Remember when you hated your own body and you asked yourself to stop? Remember when you held your dead father's hand and refused to call him gone? Remember the time a man sunk his teeth into your breast and managed to run, and you managed to run? Remember the times you walked away from hurt? The times you said no, said me first, called yourself beautiful and became it, called yourself home and believed it, turned yourself into a song full volume, your sweet face leaned into a mirror, your full lips painted red, your dark curls a halo, your skin spun gold, your greatest love, the salve for all wounds. Yes, he didn't love you, but you still alive. You are still pointing at the moon with all of your fingers extended towards your own reflection. And this last poem is a love poem to everything that makes Yesika, and it is a celebration of everything in my life that's moved me to write. The good, the bad, the painful, the healing, all of it is called compilation because it is a compilation of everything. And all of my poems are about love. All of my poems are about some boy. All of my poems are about my fat. All of my poems are about my parents. All of my poems are about my Spanish, my El Salvador, my English, my Los Angeles, my pre-gentrification Silver Lake, my Echo Park before the food trucks and yoga parties, my belly swinging by the vegan restaurants, my double chin laughing in overpriced coffee shops, my minimum wage paycheck, my staying too long in too many places, my poor taste in men, my online dating, my hope, my bad dates, my my ex-boyfriends and their girlfriends who live next door, my niece, my niece and her laughter, my niece and all of her questions, my niece and her little hands pressed against my face, my niece wet on my face, my depression, my secret sadness, my ocean always asking for my body, my anxiety whispering my name at the nape of my neck, my hands, and how they listened and slammed against my body, and how no one ever saw the bruises because no one ever saw my body. All of my poems are about my brown girl body. Everyone has an opinion about this body. I have to fight to love it every day. Body, my big, fat, beautiful body, my red lipstick smile, my curly Salvadoran hair, my mommy's hair, and my hair. Oh, my mommy, my papi, my drunk and angry papi. My papi yelling out my name in the middle of the night. My papi and his belt against my skin. My papi's belt and how it whistled in the air before finding my skin. My long nights counting his snores. My grieving him 10 years before he died. My watching him die. My exhale when he died. My life after he died. My good life after he died. My grief. My guilt. My love. All of my poems are about my parents, my hard-working migrant parents, my hardly any English parents, my Saturday afternoon listening to Caleb parents or Juan Gabriel, my early Sunday morning mass parents, my sisters and I in our prettiest dresses, my first friends, my first lesson in getting the hell over it, my singing at the top of their lungs until mommy yells, "Shut the hell up, this isn't a musical, sisters." My no one gets it like you do, sisters. You see, all of my poems are about love, the times that it came in floods, the years that I forgot what it was. All of my poems are collection plates. I fill and fill and fill and fill, and I have yet to come up empty. And I don't think I ever will. Thank God for my poems, for how they always find me, for my hands that receive them, and this heart that always believes them. Thank you so much. And that's it for the poems. I will be now bringing um, into this two of my closest friends, my two of my best homegirls, who also happen to be co-hosts and co-producers of one of the most amazing podcasts in the entire universe. I might be biased, but whatever, I don't care. I am a devout locamor, and I will always share with these homegirls on. So I'm going to be bringing in Mala Munoz and Dios FM, aka Locatora Radio, who hosted 12 hours of programming for you last night, and who now will be having a conversation with me. So here are my girls.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, love. It's so good to see you
Hi.
all.
Like we weren't just talking.
Right.
Amazing.
Thank you. So your reading was beautiful, Yesika. I was watching.
Thank you. Thank you.
You did a
Thank you. Thank you.
fabulous job.
It's really interesting to be reading poems about my family when they're all on the other side of a door. So it's always it's always a little bit interesting because I'm like, are they gonna like barge in?
Yeah. Do they know what you're doing?
I think at this point they're just like, okay, another thing we have to be quiet for. So they just kind of let me do whatever I do, and and then have entire conversations on the other side of the door.
Diosa, what was your mom saying yesterday while we were hosting all day?
So my parents just don't really understand what I do with the podcast. They understand I record, but when it comes to live events or the hosting, they don't really understand it. There's a cultural disconnect. So I try to explain to them as much as possible what I'm doing. But the whole time, my mom was like, so what are you going to be talking about the whole day? And so I kept telling her, we're introducing people, getting the crowd warmed up and ready for them. But this, she understood. She understood that I was going to be chatting with Yesika Salgado today.
My mom was in the other room.
I love your mom. We're each other's biggest fans.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And my mom was in the other room yesterday all day, and she likes to backseat host. She was little notes. She's like, don't say if you're gonna say don't say anything at all. I'm like, Mom, we're live. We're on air right now.
On air.
I think Mala's mom is upset that y'all didn't have a podcast as children, so she couldn't be a stage mom.
Right.
Oh,
she would have definitely been your producer.
Yes, she would have been our manager.
She does a lot of backstage input, plenty. She's involved.
I love her.
And I love this because we do this anyways. Like, we hang out on FaceTime and now recently on House Party. So this is just very natural to us. We're just going to talk like we do and catch up, basically. And, LA County, thank you for tuning in and joining us.
I think I'm gonna turn the tables a little bit. I know that y'all were brought in to have a conversation with me, but I just talked for 40 minutes or whatever. How do you all use love as a tool in your podcast?
I had a feeling that you were going to do this. I'm not gonna lie. I had a feeling that you were going to pivot and try and interview us. Well, first off, it's true. It's true. First off, I would say that the way love plays into the podcast or influences the podcast is love of community. So being able to put out resources, have difficult conversations, and also handle it with kindness, with light, and with a lot of humor, that is done for the love of our community.
Mm-hmm. I think too, it's a lot of,
and you can hear, yeah. Go ahead, Mala.
I think too, thank you. I think too, it's a lot of embracing the things that we like to do, embracing what women love, and pursuing our passions and our interests uninhibited, which I think we don't necessarily get that encouragement a lot of other places. So we like to create our own little corner of the internet where it's okay for us to openly and unabashedly pursue our dreams and the things we're passionate about, and not worry about necessarily romantic love or these other things that require other people to fulfill us. You know what I mean? I think we do talk about relationships, but it's not the sole focus of the program,
Yeah.
I think I always say that self-love is the form of love, right? And I think y'all do a good job of championing that and talking about your journeys with it, with your locamores and all that. So okay, I'm done playing host. I'll let y'all.
That's enough. Love it. Okay, wait. I have an idea for this interview. I want us to start from the beginning, per Diosa's suggestion via text message, but 15 minutes ago. Let's start from the beginning.
You have my children I never talk about.
Right.
Yes.
The children you don't bring these kids around anymore. These kids stay with their dad.
Their dad kept them in the divorce.
So this is
so that one,
yes, have them. So the Luna poems and woes, like iconic. Copyright Yesika Salgado 2016. This one, copyright Yesika Salgado 2013. That's like Los Angeles history.
That was with the Luna poems, the first batch. I think I had the box for like 3 years. So it took 3 years to move 100 copies of the Luna poems, and now God knows how many thousands of copies of books I've sold. So I really like that, the fact that I share so much of my work online that you could literally go back and look at my career. Mm-hmm. And I like that you could see how I came from like a stapled zine to to a hardcover poetry book. So,
to a trilogy.
A trilogy.
A trilogy. Well, the zine, I think I do things in threes because the zines were 3, and then I did my 3 books. But also, if you look at the zines, a lot of the poems in the zines have made their way into other books. And so the manuscript I'm working on a manuscript right now, and that has a lot of poems from the Luna poems because I'm writing about myself in that time period.
And so, can you share what that time period was, more or less?
Yeah, so the book that I'm writing now is from when I was a teen till about 2013, 14, when I would go on the internet and catfish. And I would pretend to be someone that I definitely am not, because I thought that I wasn't deserving of love because I'm a fat woman, an uneducated fat woman. Those are my biggest things, like the fact that I didn't get a position because I was pushed out of high school, and then that I'm a fat. And so, and so that's what it's about, the lies that we tell out of fear of losing love or not receiving love. And so the book is called Mentirosa. That's going to be the title of the book, and I'm still working on it, and there's no date for when that's coming out or who it's coming out with or whatever. All of that else is private, but the book is Mentirosa.
Yeah, and so how can you talk about that experience from creating zines, clearly being very DIY, to signing with your first publisher and completing a trilogy? Can you talk about that experience?
The journey.
So that first book, the Luna poems. Yeah. So before I did the Luna poems, all my life I knew I was going to publish a book. I didn't know how, when, what was going to happen. And then once I entered the poetry community and became active in the poetry community, we call zines chapbooks, which is like a chapter of a book, like a smaller book, right? And so I always said, I'm going to do a chapbook. So from 2009, when I started performing, to 2013, that's all I would ever talk about. Until one day, one of my dearest friends, Joel Jaimes, was just like, Yesika, just send me the poems because I'm tired. I'm tired of it. I'm going to put them in a format and we'll get this chapbook done. And so he was he did my editorial stuff, and he edited the poems for me. And my director fought me on weird stuff I wanted to do. And I did the Luna poems, and he then helped me with my other 2 chapbooks. But these were books that I was selling at my shows, that I would bring a little stack in my bag. Sometimes I would go home with all of them. Sometimes I would sell out. And then right when I quit my job in 2016, and I didn't kind of figure things out. So then I released Sentimental Boss Bitch as I needed money, right? And I was just like, I have more poems. I'm always writing, so let's do this. And right when I released that chapbook, Not a Cult ordered all 3 online, and I'm like, oh, they're looking. And then we had already been in similar spaces. And Daniel Lisi of Not a Cult met me at Cafe Tropical, which is ended up becoming what has always been the coffee shop on the corner of where of my neighborhood. And so we met there and signed a contract, and then I wrote the book there, and then I wrote Tesoro there, and then I wrote Hermosa there. So that coffee shop was my office, and I would take every meeting. I was interviewed for the New Yorker, for the LA Times, for Me Too, for any big platform, any big meeting I took in that coffee shop. Even when I had membership at like a co-working space, I was just like, nah, I'm gonna take you to the coffee shop. But it's no, it's very it's been a really wild ride, and it's just like I like to say that I dream and then the universe laughs at me and tells me, "Now, girl, go bigger." And so so from going to that to now being in talks of potentially doing TV work and writing for TV and stuff like that, it's been Yesika in 2013 that released the Luna poems didn't ever imagine that it would be this. She wanted these things, but would talk herself out of them. And so to now have accomplished all the things I've accomplished, I'm always so in awe of myself, because if everybody knew the internal dialogue, they would realize how much I push myself despite it. Like all of this people being like, you're so brave, you're so bold, or whatever. I am, but it takes a lot of emotional work to get there. Some days there's days that everything you write is gross, and you can't pick out the right outfits, and you feel awkward, and you go to shows and they feel bumpy, and you go home and want to cry because it wasn't what you're used to feeling, and you feel disconnected from your audience, and sometimes, or other times, you feel immensely loved and wrapped up in everything. And so it's a roller coaster that I'm writing, but it's beautiful, and it's so beautiful to be loved by LA the way that I am. And
Yesika, you write so vividly and specifically about places in Los Angeles. When you write about loving the city, you name streets and landmarks, and the city is very much alive throughout your work. So what I'm struggling with right now, being in quarantine, is like, the thing that we love most about LA is being in LA and being out and about and being in the spaces and enjoying the landscape. So I almost feel like I'm here, but I'm like in a long distance relationship with the city right now. And we don't have any definite each other. No flights are booked. No reservations are made. Like no calendar. There's no date on calendar, you know? So how do we love our city in the time of COVID-19 when we can't be in the city?
I saw a post on Instagram this morning, and it says, we've been living off of memories for a month. And then but it was in Spanish, saying like, we've been like feeding ourselves with memory. I forgot the exact wording of it, but that's kind of what we are. Like literally, like, I mean, y'all are two of my best friends. Like we've terrorized the city, the three, like together, right? Along with the rest of the girls in the Mommy Collective, and with brunches and party nights, and Mala, you and I, because we live in close proximity to each other, we on Sundays, right? Where we meant to have lunch, and we end up going to a museum, then karaoke, and then to dinner, and then dancing, and then next thing you know, we've been all over LA in 16 hours. And so like we're like, why are we so tired? It's because we've been eating and drinking all day. But
we've been marathon fun,
like, and then
in the city.
Yeah, and then or y'all host beautiful events that like we start at the beautiful event that y'all are hosting, and then we end up at Max Karaoke, right? But right now, like those moments are what's feeding me. Luckily, is that I'm a writer, and so I've written about these moments, and then also we're not shy to Instagram, so all of our stories are in our archives, so I can go back and be like, oh, we did a lot of living, we did a lot of we really enjoyed ourselves, and we're going to get the opportunity to do it again. But in the meantime, our beautiful city is becoming even more beautiful because the smog is leaving. And so I'm just thinking of that. I'm just thinking that we're letting the grass grow, we're letting the flowers bloom, and we're letting the sky get prettier. And while we're all indoors, and when we can come out, the pictures are going to be even bomber.
We're going to be refreshed. We're hibernating. It's a short hibernation.
We're going to be so moisturized and so like rested. And obviously the pandemic is a lot more. Obviously the pandemic is a serious thing, but like think of when to think like we're all resting and kind of going to come out on this other end better.
Yeah. I agree. There's a lot to look forward to. And in the meantime, we do what we can. We keep our spirits up and we read poetry. So thank you for continuing to create content for us in this wild time of our lives.
Yes.
And thank you so much for creating content.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and then like I want to like Grand Park and the whole team of the Music Center and for Sanctuary and just the whole team involved. This is so amazing, and it's been beautiful yesterday and today. It feels like we've been doing something together.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
Minus nice. the heat stroke.
Minus that.
That was rough.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much to everyone. Yes, thank you for chatting with us, Yesika. Thank you, Grand Park. We'll see you next time.
Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. My name is Giselle G. Tanji, and I am here to represent my community because that is what LA means to me. So before anything else, I'd like to share with you a poem by the Filipina writer from Woodland Hills, Irene Suico Soriano. It's called Los Angeles, Pilipinas. Let me tell you about Los Angeles, Pilipinas, City of Angels, Pinays. Some born here, others back home. Coresi Ramirez takes 5 minimum punches on her face by the cheekbones. Binugbog Queen, they call her. 15 years living by Rampart and Temple. 4 kids alongside a husband with a candied tongue. A type of sweetness that manifests itself with greenish blue markings on pretty brown skin. Irma Ilustre, Martir Extraordinario, novena every morning at 5. Angelus in the afternoon, Sunday masses without fail, to pray for a son's soul shot by another friend's son. In a night of yosis, hoochis, cervezas, just a get-together, party. Her daughter, Jing Ilustre, Cal State LAers sana for the fall of 1992, downhill a few months from an incident with a nobyo who refused to understand. Huwag! Ayoko! Don't want to's turned into a pretty brown baby boy who now carries the Ilustre name, not his father's name. Chona Sevilla hides the fact that welfare checks feed a son, a daughter. She takes the bus going on long treks carrying heavy bags, you see. She goes to another part so no one will see. Yung mga binabayaran niya. The things she pays for are compliments of the U.S. government. Belen Antoinette T-Bird, totoo. She married a man. She didn't love to please familia. They own big business, successful, of course. Bahay in the Los Feliz Hills Friday nights, while her husband is paying a puta on Sunset Boulevard. She is dancing to her heart's content over at the girl bar, lesbian bar, Tibo bar. There she finds love. Maricar Cunanan has a view of Malibu Beach. Sees Catalina on a clear day on certain days, the hand of her petite boss under her skirt. She watches over his 3 beautiful children and cooks for his wife. She says, there's no such thing as low-class maids in the USA, degree in accounting from UST. Here, au pair, nanny. Chingay Manalastas is a tough girl from Belmont High, believed in Pinay Brown, Pinay power, which gave her the attitude to withstand being followed in the Glendale Galleria. Rude service Banda Orange County, trying hard to hold on to that attitude after an initiation process brought about by brown men who supposedly believed in Pinay power. Viva the brown women kuno. Gang rape, she has dropped out of high school. Nerissa X, her permanent address is Skid Row, sa downtown. Yes, there is a Filipina. There, downing a bottle of gin and an occasional piping of crack, left by her pen pal, drug addict husband 5 years ago. No family tree, no family back home. The mail-ordered bride has found her tondo in the new world. Rosas is Kia. Thank God na lang for health insurance, HIV, positive 6 months ago, full-blown AIDS today, unprotected lovemaking, one night from a guapo in Bayanihan restaurant. He is now gone. She's lying alone at Queens of Angels Hospital. Let me tell you about the Los Angeles Filipinas. Some are dying inside for a brush of a familiar tropical breeze. They remember some driving along a freeway, smiling, thanking fortune for Medicare, future Social Security checks, Fedco membership cards. A poem by Irene Suico Soriano. All right, everybody. I just wanted to say hello and thank you. And before we take a break, I just want to acknowledge that all of us are here at Grant Park's Our LA Voices 2020. Let's take this moment, please, to acknowledge that we are at on the presence of traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Gabrielino and Tongva peoples. We continue Grant Park's Our LA Voices 2020 in a couple minutes. Stay tuned. I'm Gitanji. We'll be right back.